Today we're going to make what you may have heard called the goddess bracelet or a chevron style bracelet, and we will be using seed beads that are about a 6/0, as seed beads are called, 6/0 size, but you can use any size and any kind of bead. These are faux pearls, so they're round in shape. These crystals here, faceted, you could use those in the design, as well as you can use bicone beads in the design. Whatever bead you're using, what's going to be important for it is that the material that you're going to use to string them on fits through the hole that's in all of the beads that you're using. The other thing that's important is deciding what kind of closure you're going to have. And so there are several kinds of beads. Easier style to start with is a bead that has some kind of shank at the bottom, something that you can begin to start the bracelet with. And so that kind of bead is easier. You can also use a kind of bead that just has a hole, but it's a little bit different to do that kind of closure. You'll also need the size of jump rings, and I've just got a same size but different colors here. You'll also need jump rings to contrast whatever bead material you're going to use. So however your design comes together between silver and gold and bronze and all of the different colors, copper colored jump rings, you can really have a nice assortment and very pretty styles that look different. On my wrist, this first bracelet, this is the example of what we'll be doing today, and a button closure. But I also want to show you another style for this design is you can do, once you get a little comfortable stringing, you can add different kinds of designer kinds of beads in between this design of the goddess bracelet to differentiate the different areas and put in a centerpiece. Getting started, you'll need to take, for about a 7-inch wrist, you'll need to take about 2 feet of whichever kind of material you're going to use to string your beads on. So with the 2 feet of material, again, you want to make sure that the diameter of the material fits through all of the beads that you're going to use. So this 1 millimeter leather I've doubled, and I brought it through, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring it all the way to the end here. And you see my loop here? I'm going to take these guys, the ends, and run them through here. Okay? And I'm going to pull that securely down. There you have the button and now my 2 ends. Okay? Very easy kind of knot to do there. Now, I've heard, just as a tip, I've heard that while this is real leather, leather does begin to wear over time. I've heard that the faux leather material lasts a lot longer. So you might want to consider that. And also the expense for real leather is, of course, more than the faux leather. So I'm going to pour out my beads on the mat here. It's always good to have a mat to keep those beads from rolling around. Then I'm going to pour out some jump rings. So to start, you want to separate your ends. So it doesn't really matter which side you start with, but you're going to string on a bead, let it go down to the end, and then on both ends you're going to string, whoops, a jump ring. Okay, so now you can kind of see how that looks. Okay, now I'm going to take the other end that didn't have the bead, and I'm going to put a bead on that end. And then, you can see that, I'm going to take both of the ends and run it through a jump ring. With the bead, so I'm going to pull that jump ring back off. Okay, just going to end it with a bead because I started with a bead. And what I'm going to do is release that, and to end this, I'm going to do an over finger knot, where I pull this close down to, make sure I'm getting it close down to work that knot down there to the bead. But it's there. That bead is not going to move. So then what we got to try to do is make sure that this now very pretty bracelet has a way to close. So we want to measure how much that flat bead is, button is, and then make my knot in that position. Okay, so it's about right here. So I'm going to make another overhand knot, over finger knot, and then try to get it back down to where that bead is, where that width of that button is, and I'm just going to massage it to where I need it about right there. I'm not going to pull it tight yet because I can try to make sure that this opening is going to accommodate the bead, and the button. And you see it does. You can pull that tighter now in that spot. Okay? So that's if you know the person's wrist. And this, I made it a little bigger. People can adjust it based on the wrist size of the person they are making it for. Okay, now this is how I usually do it. There we go. So that's on there. Yeah. Now, if they also didn't know the size of that person's wrist, they could make another knot So there's a second one, because this now allows, if the person's wrist is larger, they've got the first opening here, if it's a smaller wrist, or if your wrist is larger, of course. This is still going to stay where the front part of it, they're not going to see this extra part here. This way they can make a gift and that person can, you know, still wear it even if the size were a little bit more. With a little dab of glue, they can put a little glue at whichever knot they're going, you know, that they want to use, a little dab of glue. Some people take on the ends and put a little bead there, and then take another little bead, and then make that wonderful, I hope I got enough here, that wonderful overhand knot. And I can pull that, and then that can be a little dangle. So if you didn't want to cut the ends, if you wanted them to be a little decorative, you could also do it this way. With the knots, just a little dab of some crazy super kind of glue will keep it from unknotting. And then you've got little dangles on the end. So you'd have that also. So you can decorate it as well.